Now, I want everyone to join me in welcoming Shaifali Puri, who is doing some of the most interesting not-for-profit work, combining private sector ethos with the benefits of nonprofit organization. Scientists Without Borders, welcome, Shaifali.
Thank you, Alexis.
And I was hoping you could just give a really brief overview of your organization for those who might not be as familiar with it.
Sure, yeah. Scientists Without Borders is a public-private partnership that's led by the New York Academy of Sciences, and that was born out of the recognition that there are a lot of resources, assets, and expertise being directed towards tackling global development challenges, but they're working in silos. So what Scientists Without Borders does is we attempt to connect scientific and technological expertise, assets, and resources wherever it is around the globe, and we do it through a free web-based platform, which is open and free to users around the world and attempts to crowdsource solutions, challenges, and share resources. And then we work with big partners to design and execute innovation-based projects, things like open innovation and incentive-based challenges, non-traditional collaborations, bringing together entirely different disciplines and charrettes, and then trying to advance and surface
So how
solutions.
are you existing as kind of a network for disruption, bringing together as many innovators from all different walks of life, so many corners of the globe, to create change?
Yeah, so what we really sort of realize and think about all the time is that a lot of times, especially with global development challenges, people ask, they seek out the person who's already thought about the problem, the deep expert. And we thought, well, why not try to ask people who've never thought about the problem? And how can we do that? The best way we can do that is leverage connection technology, web, mobile, and try to deliver really cogent, concrete, relevant problems to as many potential solvers as possible and be a little bit agnostic about what the relevance of those solvers is. So an example is we might be taking on with partners the problem of delivering folic acid to the poorest women in the world. Lack of folic acid results in multiple child defects and infant mortality. But what we'll do instead of just saying is, let's get all the experts on folic acid in children and maternal health, we'll say, how can we actually really concretely state the problem? It needs to be folic acid available at this price point. Here are all the barriers that have existed so far. Here's why the innovation doesn't exist, and then disseminate as widely as possible. It's not disruptive because, of the technology. It's not disruptive because, you're using the internet. We see it as disruptive because we're saying we don't necessarily know where the best answer is going to come from. And so, for example, the first place winner of that challenge we did was an Argentine currently living in New Zealand who came up with an idea to triple fortify salt. The second place winner of the solution that came in second place was a 60-something-year-old man living in South India who wasn't a scientist. And the third place submission came from a team of PhD students from Northwestern, from 4 different countries and 4 different academic disciplines. And we got those solutions in 30 days. That isn't to say that those solutions are necessarily, the only ones or the perfect ones, but imagine accelerating idea generation in 30 days from that many different sources.
I've always been curious how you protect those potential idea generators and give them some of the benefits of operating in a private sector still within your network. So how do you allow them to create and ideate, but still maybe benefit from some of their innovations?
Right, that's a great question. And we've taken we've borrowed a lot in sort of ethos and in methodology in some sense on our platform from the open source software movement, right? So if you're putting your ideas on our platform, if you're engaging here, you're probably motivated by the desire to share what you know, and that may come from a sense of altruism or a sense because the problem really kind of piques your interest on some degree. So we don't actually think or worry very much about IP protection in that respect. We warn people, you've got to have the right to publish this idea, it's got to be your idea. Where I think the intellectual property issue comes in, or the incentive kind of that you would get from delivering an idea, we've tried to be creative about that. When we went to the first place winner in the folic acid challenge I described, he was really eager to stay involved. He really just cared. His solution really mattered. So we thought, okay, how do we actually integrate your enthusiasm into our ongoing processes? Is it that you stay on as advisor? You know, and that's not to make light, I think, of the complexity of the IP question, but I think actually what we've seen is that what we can do is offer people what they really want. And sometimes maybe that's, you know, I just want an upside, I just want my idea protected. Sometimes it's, I want to figure out if I can get help advancing my idea. And if it makes sense in our context, our mission, you know, helps advance our solution to the problem, then we think, you know, maybe IP per se is just standing in for, I want to see some value from this, and that value can be psychic, it can be recognition as well as
and even just
market.
Looking at the 3 winners you mentioned in that particular case, they all came from relatively less developed environments or economies. So are you actually seeing that a lot of your businesses or your network is giving a unique platform for people from unknown places?
Yeah, I am so glad you asked that. That challenge we did in 30 days, we got over 60 solutions from 22 different countries, a third of which were developing world countries. Which tells us that I mean, you know, the power to reach these untapped places is huge, and we certainly are. And part of what's great about that is not just saying, oh, look, you know, someone from Fiji submitted a solution. It's because we actually think that there is a whole set of untapped knowledge, human potential, but there's a whole set of perspectives that if we can reach them, are actually themselves thinking about these problems. One of the things about the third place team that I mentioned from Northwestern, so not from a developing country, but that represented 4 different countries among them, is they call themselves the Earth team. And they once a month get together and they pick a problem. You know, one's an environmental scientist, one's a behavioral economist, I think one's a chemist, and I forget what the 4th one does. And they pick a problem and they put together their own salon. And so when I was talking to them after they submitted a solution and I got in touch, I said, this is really cool, you know, that you guys do this on a monthly basis. Why is that? And they said, because we're thinking about these problems all the time, and what we figured out is no one was giving us at the university or outside of our class a way to actually take these things we're thinking about theoretically or we're pondering and attach them to a very specific need. I mean, this was a need. It wasn't made up. It wasn't a test on an exam. It wasn't hypothetical. It was, we are really looking for this solution. Our partner Pepsi put up the incentive-based prize. We were like, you know, we said we're going to advance the solution if we can. And that ability, I think, to connect to people who really are in their own environments trying to tackle these real needs and are looking for a way to attach to a problem that they recognize but may not, you know, sort of have that concrete inroad into.
Well, I congratulate you on what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
And very nice to meet you.
You too.